What's going on, baseball fans? How you doing? We got a lot to talk about. Carlos Correa, Michael Conforto, The Red Sox, maybe, could they trade Cristian Vazquez? We're going to talk about it. Eric Hosmer and Will Myers. Could the Padres end up trading either one of those guys? We're going to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals. We're going to talk about the Oakland A's. Let's get to it. Man, what is going on, baseball fans? Hello. 44 people to start things off. What is going on? A lot of familiar faces, as always. Aaron, what's going on? Jeremiah, Cubs rule. Hello, Lionheart 70. What's going on? Grayson Gaming 08. Chris, what's going on, my friend? How are we doing? Baseball Homer. Luis Valdez, what's going on? Jackson, one of our moderators, is here. Jared Brown, Ashton McDaniel. Hello, everyone. Matthew, what's going on? Theorpo, 20 Legend, one of our members, is here. Aaron, what's going on? Braden Brewer, hello. Hope everyone had themselves a good weekend. I actually tried doing this morning. I have the next couple of weeks off of work, and I have to say it's pretty wonderful. I can't lie. But I woke up this morning. I had a nice cup of espresso ready to go. I went to go live. I actually started up everything, and then Streamlabs all of a sudden just said, hey, we got to do some updates. And I tried it again, and it said it needed to do more updates and restart. So I said, you know what? That's a sign. Let's just stick to the normal time. We'll do it at 8:30, usually around the time we always do. But everyone, welcome. Hope you all had a good weekend. Hope you all had a good Monday. Man, we're pretty close to Christmas, you know? Like, I remember as a kid, like, I couldn't even, I'd be counting down the days in, I don't know, August. Like, I would just be counting down the days to Christmas. And now, it's December 20th, and I'm thinking, holy crap, I haven't even finished my Christmas shopping. Good grief, Christmas right around the corner, man. But hope everyone's doing well. Hope you had a good day again. But before I do get started tonight, if you There we go. Sorry about that, everyone. My audio decided to just not work on me. Are we going to have one of these nights? Come on now. But everyone, if you are new, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button for me, hit the bell button, hit the share button if you can. Share it anywhere possible. The traffic has been a little slow on the channel as of late. Also, in case anyone didn't know, I put up a couple of videos. One this morning on Buck Showalter and the Mets, and I put one last night, an MLB The Show rebuild. So if any of you have not seen that yet, go check it out. I thought it was pretty fun to do. But everyone, let's get to it here. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Quite a lot to talk about. More than I expected. We got Carlos Correa. We're going to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals, the Miami Marlins. Could Michael Conforto be a fit for the Miami Marlins? We got a lot to talk about here. So let's get to our first story. Let's start off hot, shall we? Carlos Correa. Carlos Correa, as we all knew last week, on one of our streams last week, we talked about Carlos Correa turning down an offer from the Detroit Tigers, 10 years, $275 million. It's not really known when that was turned down. I mean, it's presumed that they offered it to him first, they turned it, and he turned it down, and then they went to Javier Baez and signed him. But could this be an opening for the LA Dodgers? I mean, the LA Dodgers, they seem to just be kind of hanging around in here for Carlos Correa. Let's get to it here. Oh, also, let me put on some music. Let me get the vibes going for all of you. Here we go. Music. We need the beats. Here we go. Alrighty, turn it on, that music. 1 second, everyone. Here we go. Let me make sure the volume is good. All righty, here we go. So let's get to the story. Okay, so like I said, Javier Baez ended up going to the Tigers. I still think there is some possibility that you could have Carlos Correa still be a Detroit Tiger. We'll have to wait and see if that ends up happening. Could the Tigers pull off a Texas Rangers kind of a move where they brought in Corey Seager and Marcus Semien? But there is just this one little thing about the LA Dodgers, and they're just hanging around lately. If we take a look here, Buster Olney was speculating the other day. Buster Olney, a pretty good name in the baseball industry. I feel like some other guys have risen higher, but Buster Olney, I still feel like he's a pretty reliable source. But during I believe this was on a podcast, but he ended up saying here, it's unclear whether Trey Turner will remain with the Dodgers beyond the fall of 2022 when he'll be eligible for free agency. And some player agents believe it's possible that LA could now turn to either Story or Correa. So that is a big thing here when we're looking at the Dodgers. The Dodgers, yes, they did get Trey Turner. I mean, from what I'm thinking, I would imagine the Dodgers would love to get this guy locked up, but maybe he wants to go out there and test free agency unless they blow him away with some kind of a big offer. But in my head, I'm now starting to maybe wonder, oh, what's going on? I'm hearing, Jacob Toon has become a member. What's going on? How are we doing, my friend? Thank you. Much appreciated. Member for 4 months. Man, Jacob Toon, I appreciate you sticking around this long, my friend. But yeah, Trey Turner, he is going to be a free agent. So, I just had a cup there. I don't want to knock that over. But he's going to be a free agent. So, it makes some sense to maybe go after someone like Carlos Correa or Trevor Story in that instance, because you don't know what Trey Turner is going to do. I mean, if you did bring in Carlos Correa, you would have Correa and Turner for this season. That's not too bad if you ask me. And then if Trey Turner ends up moving on after this season, well, at least you still got someone like a Carlos Correa. So back to this here. This article ended up saying here, Correa may be looking for a contract worth around $300 million. Given that the Dodgers basically acquired their Seager replacement in July with the addition of Trey Turner, it's highly unlikely they'll agree on anything with Carlos Correa. Most fans would rather not have that change. So I feel like I've been kind of reading a lot of Dodgers thoughts on this lately, and it feels like a lot of Dodgers, I don't know, I can't really gauge the percentage. Maybe I feel like it's a little more people that would rather not have Carlos Correa because you had the whole cheating scandal thing. I mean, would he be a fit for the Dodgers? I don't know. But with Carlos Correa on paper, it would make a lot of sense. You could slide him into second. Chris Taylor ends up being your super utility guy again. And with Chris Taylor, the guy can move around and just basically play every single position. And with the Dodgers, having a lot of injuries last year, Cody Bellinger was one guy that couldn't really get it going. Got it going in the playoffs, but the whole season, he was just flat the entire season. Ended up, getting hurt early on. Max Muncy was someone that got hurt at the end of the season. So, Justin Turner, he's not getting any younger. So, it's possible, that maybe adding someone like a Carlos Correa, and that would actually benefit Chris Taylor and the Dodgers even more, because you never know with the injuries on this team. So on paper, it makes a lot of sense to me. I wouldn't mind to see it, honestly. I think it would be a great move for the Dodgers, because Trey Turner is, at the end of the day, a question mark whether or not he's going to stick around. You don't know. I think it would be great if they could get him locked up to some kind of an extension. But if he's not going to do it, if he wants to hit the market, I mean, what can you do? So it makes sense to maybe go after someone like Correa, to make sure you have that sure thing. So, but we'll have to wait and see on this. I find it interesting, again, what Buster Olney ended up saying, some player agents believe it's possible that LA could now turn to either Story or Correa. So, I mean, Story would also be an interesting one. Trevor Story's been in that division for a while now. Could you see Trevor Story, move over to the Dodgers? I mean, he has a lot of experience playing there. So I could see that being a fit possibly. So we'll have to wait and see how this goes. I think with Carlos Correa, the teams that seem to make the most sense to me, I still think the Astros are a really solid fit. I mean, they just make a lot of sense. I wonder if they could come up with some kind of a contract where both sides could be happy with it. Maybe Correa gets some opt-outs in there. Maybe, because a lot of the issues with Carlos Correa as well is the health. There's been, I guess, some lower back issues with Carlos Correa in the past. So teams are a little weary. And there was also that report that they weren't giving out any health information, any medical information on Carlos Correa unless a team was willing to submit a good offer. So we'll have to, that's a bit of a question mark. So maybe, and the Astros know full and well what's going on with him medically. So maybe they could have some kind of a deal where there are some incentives. There are maybe an opt-out or two. Maybe you could have him, signed up for the next 2 years and he can opt out after that. Or maybe even, signed up for 1 season. He can opt out after next season. So there's a lot of things you could do if you're the Astros. The fact that the Tigers were willing to go 10 years, $275, I think that shows. I mean, it depends on, is that the highest offer he's going to get? I don't know. That's a long time. But Carlos Correa, I think he's holding out and he wants to get paid. I definitely think Correa, he could absolutely get a 10-year deal, but if it doesn't work out, I could definitely see him going back to the Astros. That seems to make a lot of sense. I don't see him going to the Yankees. I really don't. I've been seeing, people out there talking about that. I just don't think the Yankees are going to do it. I don't think they're going to do it. I just think the Yankees, it's always interesting with the Yankees because they have this money, but that's not their style. Like, it has not been their style over the last, few seasons. They want to stay under that luxury tax line. I know you always hear that they are, okay with going over it, but I don't know. I just don't see it, especially when they have Volpe. You got Oswald Peraza there. I don't know. I just don't. I don't see it at all. But, I mean, I guess there's always the possibility. You can never say never. But there's also the Chicago Cubs. Could the Cubs want to do it? Obviously, yeah, it could absolutely make sense. I mean, why not? The Cubs, they saved a whole bunch of money trading away all these guys. Maybe you can go get your shortstop of the future during this, a bit of a retooling phase. And then there was this whole thing. I guess people in Chicago were singing that they wanted, Correa to, come to Chicago, I guess. I don't know if anyone caught that video. And Carlos Correa had actually retweeted it and said, hey, thank you. Appreciate that. So, I don't know. Could that mean anything? I don't know. But the Cubs, they brought in Marcus Stroman. They brought him in on a pretty nice deal. So the Cubs, to me, I didn't see them going into a full rebuild mode. I saw, because you still have some talent on that team, I definitely saw them taking a bit of a step back, but not like a full rebuild step back, So Correa could make some sense. I absolutely could see Correa going to the Cubs. So I would say right now, if I'm going to put my money on anything, I'll go Astros number 1. I'll be honest. I'll go Dodgers number 2. You never know what this Dodgers team is going to do with money. The only thing that holds me back with the Dodgers is they have been over that luxury tax line now for quite a few. I think it's like 3 years they've been over that luxury tax line, and those fines, they're just going to keep adding up. They get more and more every single year. You have the international, signing money. You got draft positioning. There's consequences for being over that luxury tax line, especially the more years you do it consistently. Or consecutively, sorry. But I don't know. If they don't care about it, why not? I think Correa could be an option for them. I don't know. I would have to go right now. If I'm going percentages, I'll go. I think in the end, it's going to come down to the Astros, Dodgers, and the Cubs. That's just my opinion. Maybe I even give a bit more of an edge to the Cubs, but I don't know. That's interesting. I think the Astros right now, they're my favorite to bring him back. And then I'll go, I don't know. I'll go 50% Astros, 25% Dodgers, 25% Cubs. I think that's I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't think the Yankees bring him in. I don't think a team like the Red Sox bring him in. I just don't see it, especially with my Red Sox. I don't see them bringing in Carlos Correa. It just doesn't seem like the money that Chaim Bloom, and, ownership would want to spend, especially if they weren't willing to bring back Mookie Betts. I don't see them bringing in Carlos Correa. But let me know what you think down below in the comments. Where do you think Correa ends up going? Do you think he could end up being a Dodger? Do you think he ends up going to the Cubs? Goes back to the Astros? Let me know what you think down below. I'm very interested to see what you all think. Let's see what you guys are saying here. Yep, CK Shin. So the $25 million into the luxury tax line. Yeah, they had a lot of payroll last year. Cubs rule. You're still thinking Cubs. Nelson, you're thinking Cubs. Nahawan, absolutely the Angels as well. I think the Angels make sense. I think they need to focus more on pitching. The only reason I'm not talking about the Angels is because you haven't seen them anywhere. You haven't seen any sort of reports, but maybe that's a good thing. Sometimes these teams, they're kind of just hanging in the back and they're kind of just waiting to swoop in. Could maybe the Angels swoop in at some point? Why not? They need a shortstop. Unless are you going to go with David Fletcher at short? I don't know. But sure, absolutely they could go with Carlos Correa. So Laser Sharks, do a poll. I got to figure out how to do the polls on here. I know you can do polls in the chat. I got to figure out how to do that. I gotta figure that out. So I'm seeing a few of you saying the Cubs. I'm seeing Aaron saying the Astros. I'm seeing a couple Dodgers. Hey, we have to wait and see. Hey, Greg C. I think Carlos Correa on the Marlins. That'd be awesome, but I don't think they're going to spend that money. So let's move on to our next story, everyone. Enough of the Carlos Correa talk. Speaking of the Marlins, let's talk a little Michael Conforto. It's looking like the Marlins, they were showing some interest in Conforto before the lockout. So, hey, Michael Conforto, I remember doing my free agent predictions where do I even have any of those right? I think I got maybe one prediction right, I think. I don't know. I got to go back and look. I know they're not very good. But I remember thinking in my head, while coming up with my predictions, I was thinking, could Michael Conforto go to the Marlins? He's staying in the same division. They could use some outfield help. Conforto, I feel like that would be a pretty nice fit for them. So let's go take a look at the Marlins. Or actually, let's go take a look at the story first. So, the Marlins have already made one big outfield acquisition this winter, signing Avisail Garcia to a 4-year, $53 million deal before the lockout began. But recent rumors have indicated they are still looking to add another. One name on their list is Michael Conforto, according to Joe Frasero of Man on Second Baseball. The Marlins have had discussions with Conforto's camp, and he remains a possibility. So, hey, I don't see why not. Why couldn't they do this? If you go take a look at their depth chart right now, their outfield right now, you brought in Avisail Garcia. I thought that was a nice move, a nice all-around player. Give you some power. He's going to give you some fielding. Decent batting average, decent on base. I thought Avisail Garcia was a nice signing for them. But if you take a look at the other outfield spots, as of right now, it's projected that Jesus Sanchez and Brian De La Cruz are going to be their left fielders and center fielders. So I feel like Jesus Sanchez, this is a guy where after 2021, he was the 10th ranked prospect overall. And with Brian De La Cruz, he was number 27. The difference with these two is Jesus Sanchez in 64 games with the Marlins last year hit 251, 14 homers, a 319 on base, a 116 WRC plus. Not too bad. How was the defense, actually? Actually, the defense was not too great for Jesus Sanchez. He played mostly right field and left field. So with Brian De La Cruz, played both center and right. And he actually did pretty well last year. Hit 296, 5 homers, a 356 on base, a 115 WRC plus. The defense still not great. It was a little better than Jesus Sanchez. But you got these two young outfielders here. So I'm kind of wondering who's going to be the guy that if they ended up bringing in someone like Conforto, or if you bring in someone else, maybe even someone like a Jorge Soler. I think that would be a really fun fit. Soler on the Marlins. I think that would be fantastic. But if you were to bring in someone, like let's just say Conforto, who ends up being the guy that is the odd man out? Is it Jesus Sanchez? Or would it be Brian De La Cruz? Right now, Jesus Sanchez, he is the higher-ranked prospect. I mean, taking a look at the power. I mean, the power really showed. Over the 64 games last year, 14 homers. Brian De La Cruz, on the other hand, only the 5 homers. So with Jesus Sanchez, this is a guy, you know, as of right now, only a 30 hit tool. It could end up being a 40, which is still not great by any means. Game power, as of right now, they're listing at a 30, but could end up being a 50. But the raw power, that's the biggest thing with him. That's the biggest thing, is he has a 70 raw power. That's, you know, elite status right there. And then he's got decent speed and decent field as well. He's graded out as a 45 prospect right now, while Brian De La Cruz is a 40. If I'm going with someone here, I'm thinking, you know, De La Cruz would end up being the odd man out. I mean, the only difference is, well, there's also one more thing to consider. Avisail Garcia is a right fielder, but he has had experience playing in center field. So let me actually pull up here his stats. If we go to his fielding stats here, how much has he played center field in his career? Back in 2020, he played 348 innings in center field. However, he wasn't very good, at least defensive runs saved wise. He did have a UZR of 2.3. But it's probably not his best position. I mean, obviously, he's played way better out in right field. He has more defensive runs saved out there. I mean, take a look at the season he had in right field this past year. He had 8 defensive runs saved, 7.8 UZR. Those are pretty solid numbers. For a Michael Conforto, let me actually pull up here. I believe he can play some center field as well. The thing, though, is that neither guy, I would imagine, is going to be the best option for center field. So let's actually, here, I'm going to hold my breath here. Yeah, Conforto, I mean, he's even worse out in center field. He's got negative defensive runs saved, and he's negative in the UZRs. So neither Garcia or Conforto are great options for center field. So my thought process is maybe Conforto. Well, hold on. I'll hold my breath one more time. If we go to, can Jesus Sanchez play in center field? I don't think so. He seems more like a corner outfielder to me. I mean, he hasn't even played center field. So the only guy really that has gotten, at least last year, that had a ton of time in center field was De La Cruz. Let me actually pull up here. How did he do out in center field? In center field last year, he had -1 defensive runs saved, a -1.8 UZR. So the problem that ends up being with someone like Conforto is no one is really a great option for center field. I would say if I were to go with one guy for center field, I don't know. I think you can kind of, I mean, it's not going to be Jesus Sanchez. I think you want to hang on to Jesus Sanchez because that power potential is real. It's really good. With Avisail Garcia, I would probably lean towards him for center field, and they've already acknowledged as well. The Marlins have acknowledged that he could be an option for center field. It says here that they acknowledge that they believe Garcia could be an everyday center fielder if needed. I would imagine Garcia would be, if you do sign Conforto, he would be the guy that moves to center. It wouldn't be the best option considering, you know, the amount of negative defensive runs saved in his career at the position. One more time, we'll take a look at those numbers. He had, in his career in center field, a -10 defensive runs saved. So he's not the best option for center field, but he could play out there. So for me, if I'm looking at this lineup, I would imagine, hey, you know, probably Conforto would go to right. Then you would have Avisail Garcia for center. And then honestly, I would keep Jesus Sanchez out in left. And maybe Brian De La Cruz, you know, could he maybe be a trade piece? Maybe go, you know, be your 4th outfielder, something like that. I think Conforto would be a great fit. I know with Conforto, a bit of a tough season. Oh, I'm hearing a super chat. What's going on? It's Wardy. Wardy NYM. You've had quite the offseason, my friend. Oh, my goodness. Man, I wish my Red Sox would start, signing guys like Max Scherzer. You've had all the fun. Wardy says, keep up the great work. Robbie, thank you very much. My hope is that Conforto lands with the White Sox. Ooh, that'd be pretty nice. Or the Mariners. That would also be a very nice fit. I think Conforto, where did I say? I think the Royals would also be a really good fit for Conforto. I would like that. Let me actually go to some other teams here on Fangraphs. If we go to the projections for right fielders next year. I mean, the Reds, could the Reds bring him in? Probably not, because they're seeming to wanting to cut costs. I mean, could the Rockies maybe? I think the Rockies, you could do something with them. That'd be a pretty nice bat out there. Could maybe the Diamondbacks? I mean, they could definitely use some more bats, absolutely. I don't think the Rangers, you got Cole Calhoun. I think Cole Calhoun can have a good bounce-back season. I think the Royals, again, I think could be pretty good if you want to have an upgrade over Kyle Isbell. But yeah, I mean, the Padres have been connected to Conforto a little bit. I think the Padres, they're really trying to get out of either Hosmer's contract or Myers' contract. We'll talk about the Padres here in just a little bit. But the Padres have been connected to him a little bit. Probably not the Cubs. I mean, Jason Hayward, that contract, oof. And that's what I'm thinking. I thought maybe the Brewers could be a fit at one point, but then they addressed it with Hunter Renfroe. But yeah, I'm thinking those. And the Mariners, I wonder with the Mariners. I know, I think Conforto was born in Washington. I think he grew up in Washington. So there's that connection there that would make it fun. I would think with the Mariners, you got so many of those young outfielders there. But hey, I think Conforto, if you could find a way to get this guy in your lineup, and you can count on a bounce back season, I think that would be great. But I think the White Sox could be really good too. I think the White Sox could be nice. So there's a lot of options. Could the Marlins be that option? We'll have to wait and see. Wardy, thank you so much again, my friend. I appreciate you. You're doing fantastic work over there covering the Mets, man. I mean, you're just killing it covering the Mets. It's crazy. I got to maybe start, stepping up my Red Sox game a little bit. But great work, Wardy. Thank you so much, my friend. Simon Jacobs, no, the lockout is not over, and we're very cold and lonely over here, so hopefully this lockout ends quite soon. But Michael Conforto, could we see him be a Marlin? We'll have to wait and see. We won't know anything, obviously, because we're locked out, but it's fun to speculate. Could he be a Marlin? We'll have to wait and see. Either way, at the end of the day, the Marlins need offense. That's what they need. They need offense, whether it's right-handed bats, left-handed bats. It was one of the worst offenses in the game last year. So I think Conforto, he would definitely help them out, even despite a down season. Let me actually pull up here his numbers one more time before I move on to our next story. With Conforto, what did he do last year? 125 games, only hit 232, a 344 on base. The on base is still pretty good. I'll give him that. So that's where I think probably something mechanically going on with him. He was going through some injuries a little bit. So that's what I think, is the on base is still pretty good. It's just the slugging was down. The home runs were down. I mean, WRC plus wasn't too miserable. But either way, I know with Conforto, he's shown what he can do before. I mean, even going back to 2020 in those 54 games that he played, he was awesome. He had over a 2 WAR in 54 games. He was projected, he was on pace to be a 6-win player. So, or at least close to it. So, I think he's going to be fine. So, Steamers is actually projecting him. They're projecting him to hit 254, 358 on base, 25 home runs, 79 RBIs. I think he can get back to that. That sounds about right if you ask me. And they have that ISO percentage bouncing back up as well. So, Conforto, I think it would be great for the Marlins. Let me know, where do you guys think Conforto would be a good fit? Do you think the Marlins would be a good fit? Wardy mentioned the White Sox or the Mariners earlier. Do you think either one of those two teams would be a great fit? How about some other teams? Maybe the Royals. Could the Reds maybe surprisingly spend some money? What else? Let me know. I want to see what you all think. Let me read some comments. What are we doing here? Simon Jacobs. So really the only players right now that are being signed are just minor league contracts, and all these players that are going over to Japan. I think that's hilarious. I don't think I've seen so many players sign in Japan, during an off season. I've never seen this. I don't know if it's just because we're not having any other moves. Maybe we've had, the same amount of players usually every year sign on Japanese teams, but I don't know. We're not seeing any other news going on right now, so I don't know if it's just because it's the only kind of news we're seeing. But there's a lot of players that are going out to Japan right now. Freddie Galvis went to Japan. I mean, I thought he could have, linked up with a major league team. But I think some of these players, some of them can't afford to wait. Some of them need to go and play. So I can understand it. But Riding 4 Beers 88. Love that name, man. Padres ain't getting out of any of those contracts. I actually have an idea on one trade with the Padres. We'll get to that in a second. What else were you saying? John Sullivan, you're thinking Carlos Rodon to the Mets. Hey, look out for my MLB The Show Mets rebuild. If you haven't seen it, I put a Detroit Tigers rebuild last night. I had a lot of fun doing that. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But I'm actually working on a Mets one as we speak. I'm going to see, hey, can we lock down a couple of World Series with the Mets? We'll have to see if I can do it. But all right, what are we all saying here? What else are we saying? Lane, who do you see the Mets signing? I think they could use another bullpen arm. I think they really could use some rotation depth. I would like that. I mean, hey, and if you can bring in a Chris Bryant, why not? If you can bring in a bat like that, I think that'd be great. But then you're starting to get kind of heavy on the position players at that point. You already got J.D. Davis and Jeff McNeil on the bench. So, if you're bringing in Chris Bryant, I mean, one of those guys are going to have to go. J.D. Davis, I would think, would be the guy. But we'll have to wait and see what the Mets end up doing. Aaron, I appreciate that, my friend. Appreciate that. Yeah, Noah the Dodger boy. I agree. The Padres, they got to stay healthy. That's an underrated thing in today's game. You got to keep the guys healthy. But that's why depth is so important. You got to have depth, not just on the major league team, but you got to have it in the organization, in the minor leagues as well. So it's risky. What's going on? Who do you think the Cubs will pick up? I think the Cubs, I feel like the thing with the Marcus Stroman deal, I feel like it wasn't like a crazy, move. I think it actually was a pretty nice move. You're not like breaking the bank, signing a guy to, over, $250 million. It was a respectable signing. You're bringing in a solid starting pitcher. He's a building block for the Cubs. So I could see the Cubs making maybe another similar move like that. Maybe signing a guy somewhere in the $50 to $75 million range. Where exactly? I don't know. Let me actually pull up the Cubs really quick. Should I do a Chicago Cubs MLB The Show rebuild? I think that'd be pretty fun. But the Cubs right now, you got Nico Horner at short. So I don't know. Maybe you could go get someone for center field. Someone. I don't think you need to make anything drastic. Maybe another starting pitcher, possibly. For the Cubs right now, I think you got to practice patience. I think right now you don't need to do anything crazy. I think Marcus Stroman, I think that was a good sweet spot kind of a signing. You didn't need to go crazy, spending money on him. I think that was a nice signing for them. It gives them an opening day starter. And it makes the Cubs a little more competitive for next season. You're slowly going in the right direction with the Cubs. I don't think you need to do anything drastic. That's why I don't see them going after Carlos Correa. Because I think they're trying to do a slow and steady kind of a thing. They want to go in the right direction, but they don't want to go too crazy at the same time. So, alrighty, let's move on to our next story. What are we talking about next? Oh, we're talking about the San Diego Padres next. Well, the Padres, hey, disappointing season last season. Disappointing season. But the Padres right now, they're having a bit of an issue with the payroll. They are, according to reports, they would love to get under that luxury tax line if they can. So right now, you got two guys. Unfortunately, they're just not great contracts. You got Will Myers, you got Eric Hosmer. Are they going to be able to move one of these contracts? That's going to be pretty tough if you ask me. But let's go take a look here at the San Diego Padres, and let's actually take a look at the story here. So, talking about the Padres here on MLB Trade Rumors. So they were talking here, though the next collective bargaining agreement could change the luxury tax rules, for now the Padres' hefty salary commitments continues to influence the front office's activities. The Padres, and I want to also just say this too, for when a team is over that luxury tax line and you're not making the playoffs, that's kind of a sign for those teams where they're like, all right, we got to get under that luxury tax line. We got to get under it. So especially when you're over it and you're not making the playoffs, because at that point, what's the point? You're spending all this money, and you're not even making the playoffs. So what's the point? I can understand these teams that are going to make the playoffs. Yeah, maybe, go over that luxury tax line for a season, sacrifice some, those fines that you got to pay, the international signing money, because if you could win a World Series, then it's worth it. So, but the Padres already exceeded the $210 million luxury tax threshold in 2021 and would face a repeater penalty of a 30% surcharge on the overage if they surpass whatever the threshold is in 2022. So, and that's what I was talking about with the Dodgers earlier. Those fines, they keep getting higher and higher. So these teams, do they want to keep doing that? That's why I'm wondering if the Dodgers, I don't know if they're going to go after Carlos Correa, because their payroll, it's gotten a little lower. They're still not under that luxury tax line. And I think the Dodgers, they probably want to get back under it just so you can reset it, because if you can get under that line, it resets. So that's the big thing. So that's why I'm wondering if the Dodgers are going to go spend any big money. That's why I don't think they're probably going to land Correa unless, they want to go for it. But we're talking about the Padres here. You got a couple of big contracts: Eric Hosmer, Will Myers. So right now, according to the reports, it isn't clear what San Diego's salary ceiling might actually be, though the Athletics' Dennis Lin notes that another major hike would require owner Pete Seidler to get a green light from the franchise's minority owners. So any big move, you would need to get it approved. So you're going to have to go through that bit of a roadblock there. And would these owners want to approve a deal like that, because, or like a big time signing or something like that, because you just went over that luxury tax line last year and you didn't make the playoffs? So it's like, is that going to be, financially the best thing to do? Because you're just going to keep having to get rid of money, and pay those fines. But the Padres, you've seen Eric Hosmer in the news all off season, little rumblings here and there where they're trying to move that contract. They were talking with the Cubs last year at some points. Will Myers is a guy as well. I feel like Will Myers, this is a guy that they've been trying to probably just move behind the scenes if they could. I don't think Will Myers is that bad of a player. I think he's okay, but he's a guy that's expendable to me, especially if you're trying to get under that line. So if we go take a look here at the payroll, looking at the Padres payroll, well, Machado's not going anywhere. Tatis Jr., obviously not going anywhere. Yu Darvish, he's not going anywhere. But Eric Hosmer, he's going to be making $20.6 million. His salary will go down if he doesn't opt out. So that's going to be a bit of a question mark. I think this season really is the big thing for Hosmer, and whether or not he opts out or not. But Will Myers, he has 1 year left on this deal. He is $22.5 million. I'm telling you right now, out of these two guys, I think it's going to be too hard to move Hosmer. I think you can move Myers. I definitely think you can move Will Myers, because he's a guy where you can put him in your outfield. He didn't have a bad season last year by any means. Let me pull up the Will Myers numbers. It wasn't a great season overall, but it wasn't terrible. He had 146 games, 17 homers, 63 RBIs, hit 256, a 334 on base. Not terrible. He was fine. It's not like he's awful. I think Hosmer, he's going to be too difficult to move. He has too much of a negative value. If we actually pull up the values here I was playing around with a trade earlier. Let me actually pull up a fresh simulator here. And I came up with a pretty wackadoodle trade earlier. I couldn't get it approved on here, but I think there's a bit of a glitch in the system with baseball trade values right now that they're trying to work on. But I came up with a 3-way trade. It was pretty wackadoodle looking. I'll pull it up here in a second for you. That way you can all laugh at me for it. But let's pull up here the Padres. So where are the Padres? There we go. So Hosmer, if you look at the value for Hosmer, So the way baseball trade values, they come up with their values. They weigh in a lot of things. They look at how much you're getting paid, your age, obviously your performance, your projections, how much control you have on your contract. So basically, someone like a Ronald Acuna Jr. or another younger player, or Luis Castillo is another one, where if they're young and they're very good and they're cheap and they're under control, those are going to be the highest value players. Someone like Hosmer, you're going to get more into the negatives when obviously you're not performing as well, when you're getting paid a ton of money and you're only getting older. So that's the difference. And that's why Hosmer has such a bad value of negative 50.7. But if you look at Will Myers, he has a negative value, but it's way less than Hosmer. It's a negative 12.8. This is why I think if you're going to trade one of these guys, I think it's going to be Myers. I don't think it's going to be Hosmer. I think he's going to be too difficult to move. There's just too much going on. I think the Padres trade Will Myers. I think that ends up happening, and I actually have an idea of a team that I think would take Will Myers. And I'll get to that in 1 second. Let's actually go on to our next story because it's going to tie all of this together. So we'll get back to the Padres here in just a couple of minutes. But our next story, it's about my Red Sox. I love talking about my Red Sox. That's always fun. Could we maybe see the Red Sox possibly trade their catcher, Cristian Vazquez? I think it's possible. Let's get to the story here. So if you haven't noticed, as a Red Sox fan, I've seen this quite a bit, like going back the last couple of years. The Red Sox, they have been in the rumor mill talking to teams about Cristian Vazquez. Cristian Vazquez, I would not be surprised if he gets traded this offseason. With Cristian Vazquez, if you remember going back to the COVID season, 2020, there were rumors about they were talking to the Mets and they were talking to the Rays about Cristian Vazquez. And again, another thing with Cristian Vazquez, or at the trade deadline as well, his name came up a couple of times. Nothing ever materialized. But there was also another thing that was really interesting. I don't know if anyone noticed this, but Jacob Stallings, remember, he got traded to the Marlins. But I thought this was really interesting. In this report, who wrote this report? Chris Cotillo of MassLive.com. He reminded everyone that the Red Sox, they tried trading for Jacob Stallings. Did anyone notice that? Did anyone see that? I thought maybe the Yankees would have been a great fit for Jacob Stallings, to be completely honest, because Gary Sanchez is just absolutely terrible. I mean, I don't see why they keep going with Gary Sanchez. I don't understand. What can you do? But I thought Jacob Stallings would have been great for them. But I digress. The Red Sox, they tried making a trade for Jacob Stallings. I find that really interesting because, well, Cristian Vazquez is your catcher. Why would you be talking, about Jacob Stallings? If you're looking here at the, let me go to the Red Sox payroll here. So Vazquez is not going to be making a ton of money. I don't think he's making like a ton. He's making $7 million, but he's going to be a free agent. So with the Red Sox, you have Kevin Plawecki on your roster. He was more of like that offensive catcher. But you do have a couple of guys down in the minor leagues. You got Connor Wong. You got Ronaldo Hernandez. Remember, the Red Sox traded for him as well. That was another thing that made me think, is Cristian Vazquez going to be the long-term guy? Because they went out and remember they got Ronaldo Hernandez last offseason. So I thought that was interesting. The Red Sox do have some options. Connor Wong actually did see some time last year. So the question is, will they trade him? I wouldn't be surprised. I have an idea. Remember I was talking about the Padres a second ago with Will Myers. I was talking about Cristian Vazquez just now. Could maybe the Padres and the Red Sox come together? You're probably thinking, huh? What are you talking about, Robbie? Well, hey, last time I checked, Chaim Bloom, he is very well known for bringing in guys who have negative value if he can get some prospects out of it. I mean, why not bring in Will Myers? They've been on the rumor mill being interested in Seiya Suzuki, a right-handed bat. Well, last time I checked, Will Myers is a right-handed bat too. You signed Jackie Bradley Jr., that could be a bit of a platoon. Will Myers and Jackie Bradley Jr. sharing the duties, for, the right-handed, left-handed bats for an outfield spot. Why not? I mean, I know you're paying Will Myers a lot of money, but Chaim Bloom has said if it makes sense to go over the luxury tax line, they'll do it. And if he can get some prospects out of it, he's going to do it. That's what Chaim Bloom does. Remember what he did with Adam Ottavino. Brought in Adam Ottavino. Look what he just did with Jackie Bradley Jr. He took on Jackie Bradley Jr.'s contract, and he was able to get a couple of prospects out of that as well. I'm telling you, I think the Padres and the Red Sox could come together here for some kind of a trade. I actually put something together here. It's probably not the final thing or my final proposal. I think you could still work it out. But why not, maybe come together here, send Vazquez to the Padres. And in return, we'll take Myers, but to make up the negative equity on his deal, we'll take Mackenzie Gore while we're at it. Hey, Mackenzie Gore, it seems like he's kind of fallen off over there in San Diego. Well, we'll take Mackenzie Gore. Why not? I'll happily take Mackenzie Gore. I would love to have him. Let's do it. And if you look at the values here, well, the Red Sox, they're getting $1.10 million in value, and the Padres are getting 1.6. So with the Padres, this would... I know the Padres right now at catcher. Let me pull up the Padres here. So as of right now, you got Austin Nola and you have Victor Caratini. So I know you brought in Austin Nola in that trade with the Mariners back at the 2020 trade deadline. He hit okay last year, but he didn't play a lot of games. I believe he was hurt. I think he had some injuries. He had the thumb. So yeah, he had a thumb thing. So he was fine offensively, but how is he going to be? He's also good defensively as well in 2021. He had a 3.0 defense. So Austin Nola has been pretty decent in the last couple of seasons. I mean, could you maybe come together on some kind of a deal? I don't know. I don't know. I guess it really just depends on how the Padres feel about Nola. Let me actually pull up here. When is Nola a free agent? Nola, where are you at? Austin Nola. Actually, well, maybe the Padres wouldn't do this because Nola is not going to be he's not a free agent until 2026. Wow. Let me work something out here. Let me do something. I don't know. I'm just kind of coming up with an idea because I don't know because to me, if you want to get rid of Will Myers, I think the Red Sox could be a good fit for him. Will Myers also, I was looking at his Baseball Savant page earlier. He's a pull hitter. That would work well at Fenway. He tends to pull more, especially if you look at all his home runs last year. I think he had 17 home runs. Most of them were pulled. I think he would work really well with the monster. So I always thought Will Myers would be a good fit for Fenway Park. It was just the money. I remember when they were talking Mookie Betts a couple of years ago. I remember they were talking with the Padres about Mookie Betts. And I remember Will Myers' name was coming up a lot during that time. I think Chaim Bloom would be okay with bringing someone like him in, if the deal was right. So if we're taking a look here, let me go back to this. Where did that go? Here we go. The Padres. What is Nola's value? It's got to be pretty good. Yeah, it's a 19.6. So I don't know. Could you swap catchers? Would that make sense? I don't know. Do you swap catchers to be able to get out of a contract? I don't know if that really makes a lot of sense, but whatever. Let me just plug some stuff in here. Here we go. Let's do. Well, honestly, could you maybe just do this? Well, honestly, here we go. Actually, I might kind of like this. Where's Vazquez here? Vazquez. Maybe you could be onto something. I don't know if this really makes a lot of sense, but at least with the Padres, if you swap catchers, well, the Red Sox will take Nola, and then they could take Myers. But the cost of it, you'd have to give up Nola. But Nola was hurt a lot last year. So I don't know if this would make a lot of sense. The Red Sox would have to give up a little bit more. But then again, I don't know. I mean, you are getting Nola, who's not a free agent for a few years. I don't know. It's maybe. Probably not. I think I like the other one better. But the question is what do you do with Nola? And then if you take, if you bring on Vazquez, I don't know. Is there any news on how Austin Nola is going to be for next season? Well, actually, let me pull up I can go to the injury report. Austin Nola. Okay, he's not on the injury report. Let me actually see here. Austin Nola. Any news? Yeah, and that's another thing too. Padres are loaded with catchers right now. So, I don't know. What are they saying on this article? They're talking about Eric Hosmer. The prospect the Cubs may have been targeting in an Eric Hosmer deal, catcher Luis Campusano. Well, that's also something. Maybe the Red Sox could go after Luis Campusano. But again, or would they take on Cristian Vazquez? You're getting a lot of catchers at that point. So it's interesting, though, that the Cubs, they were talking with the Padres, and Luis Campusano was a name that was coming up. Don't forget, the Cubs also brought in Yan Gomes. And supposedly, Wilson Contreras was not a big fan of that. Because Wilson Contreras, he's going to be a free agent soon. So, it sounds like he's probably trying to work out some kind of an extension with the Cubs, but they may not be feeling that. Now, if you're to go back to the simulator, again, let's put this on hold for now, because I don't know. The thing with the Padres is that while Vazquez, on paper, maybe that other trade maybe made a little bit of sense, on paper, where if I go pull that trade back up here, for this trade, if we were to take a look here, again, on paper this would work, but theoretically, would the Padres want, someone like Cristian Vazquez? I don't know, because you already have Nola. So I don't know if that would really work. But for the Padres, you would be able to get rid of Myers. Maybe you could do something else besides Cristian Vazquez. The only reason I put in Vazquez is because the Red Sox seem to, want to be maybe getting rid of him. But I could do a different trade. Let's say it ends up not being Cristian Vazquez. Maybe they'll take another player. Let me go here. I'm going to do a Cubs one in a second. I'm going to do an Eric Hosmer one. I don't think the Red Sox would bring in Eric Hosmer because they already got a lot of first basemen in their system. You already got Bobby Dahl back. I mean, you got Tristan Casas, who I think is the future. I think Tristan Casas is your first baseman of the future. So I don't see them bringing in Hosmer. So for the Padres, let's do Will Myers. And let's do, and I'll pull up Gore. And let's say for the Red Sox, I mean, at this point, the Red Sox could really just give up kind of anyone. I mean, you got $1.10 million to give up. And at this point, you can kind of just, I don't know, send over someone like Lugo or Benassi or Jimenez or I don't know, whoever. Take your pick. Pick a prospect. So, the Red Sox could essentially do something like this. If it's not Myers, could the Red Sox maybe try and get Campusano? Could they maybe pull him away? Campusano has a $25 million value. Let me take out Gore. Especially if they're thinking about, not having Cristian Vazquez as their catcher of the future. The Red Sox, why couldn't they do something like this where you send back $12 million in value? I don't know. Maybe you could send Jeter Downs. Jeter Downs had a pretty rough year in the minor leagues last year. Could you send Jeter Downs back to San Diego? Maybe something like that. Let me do a trade with the Cubs. And I'll do, I don't know, would they want Myers? Probably not. Let me go to the Cubs here. Cubs, Padres, Hosmer. I think Hosmer makes sense. I mean, you got Schwindel there. I think I've done a couple of trades here with the Padres and the Cubs, but let's put together another one here. We can do Campusano. Let's do that. So, I don't know, but then you're in the negative still. And the thing is like, if you're sending over cash, I don't know if that's... I think that still counts towards the luxury tax line. I think it does count. Let me actually go to a payroll here. I can never remember if you're paying another player's contract, does that still go towards your luxury tax line? I don't think, or I think probably it does. Maybe. I don't remember. Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, it does. So yeah, it still counts towards your luxury tax. So even if you're paying cash here, it's still not really going to help you out. So I think with Hosmer, again, I think it's just too much. I think it's just too much negative money. So, especially when the Padres are trying to get under that line. I don't know. In this case, you would have to give up a couple of prospects to get rid of Hosmer if you're not doing any cash. So, I think Hosmer is going to be too difficult to move. That's why I think Will Myers is the guy that just makes sense. So, if you're going to actually go here to... Let me pull up the projections. Let me go to Austin Nola. Let's go to the right field projections. Who's a team that could use a right fielder? Well, and that's willing to take on some money. Well, not the Reds, not the Pirates, not the A's. Probably not the Rockies. Maybe the Diamondbacks? I don't know. I think that could be okay. Maybe the Royals. You know? Could, maybe. Would they do that? I don't know. Probably, I don't know. Probably not the Cubs with Will Myers. Maybe Cleveland? Nah, they wouldn't take the money. Probably not the Brewers. Maybe the Blue Jays? I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. It doesn't really work in a lot of places, I think. Especially with a team that's willing. Maybe the White Sox? Could the White Sox do it? I don't know. Angels, maybe? I don't know. The team that just makes sense to me are the Red Sox. I know they got Verdugo listed here for right field, but you could just move Verdugo over to left. And or whoever, if you bring in Myers, that could be your guy too. So I think the Red Sox, to me, for Will Myers, I think makes the most sense, in my personal opinion. So that's what I'm thinking. Because, again, the Red Sox would love to be able to get a prospect with Will Myers, because that's what Chaim Bloom likes to do. And it's a creative way to add to your payroll. That's the one thing the Red Sox have an advantage with, is they have that money where they can spend money where they can essentially buy prospects. They'll take a player's salary, and then you could take a prospect to make up that negative value. So it's going to be interesting. I think, again, I'll reiterate it one more time. I think Hosmer is going to be too hard to move. Maybe if he has a better first half of the season, maybe they could trade him at the deadline if he, restores some of that value a little bit. Myers, I think you could move. I think you could move Myers, and you're going to be getting rid of over $20 million in payroll. And one more time, let me go to the payroll for the Padres. Right now, they're at $214 million. That would get you way under. You're into the 190 millions at that point. And I think for the Padres, that would be fantastic. And then you could bring in, someone cheap, or you could simply just move someone out there. Ha-Seong Kim, this is a guy where you could maybe stick him out there. You did also just bring in Nomar Mazara, so that could be something. So I think they would be able to fill that in fine, but I have to wait and see. But again, I think Will Myers is the guy that you could end up moving. So let me know what you think down below. Do you think there could be a good fit for Eric Hosmer out there? I think that's going to be too hard to do. But what do you think? Where do you think could be a good fit for someone like Hosmer or someone like Will Myers? So, yeah, Keith K., I agree. I think Campusano could be a guy where if you worked out a deal, actually, I don't think if I go... Oh, no, yeah, I did do that. I did that earlier. I did the Will Myers Campusano combo and send back someone like a Jeter Downs. That could make sense. So, but yeah, what are you guys saying here? Yeah, Robert Hassel could be a guy that you could partner with Hosmer. You're probably still having to make up some value at that point. So, Christian Morales, do you believe that Joey Bart will be a viable option at catcher for the Giants next year? If not, what do you think they do? Contreras trade? I think Joey Bart ends up being a guy. I think he ends up being someone good. He's been a highly touted prospect for a while now. So I think give Joey Bart the reins, man. Give him the reins. So, but then there's also Thomas Marshall Jr. There's also Bailey, Patrick Bailey. So, maybe one of them could end up moving, to another position at some point. So, but I think right now you got to give Joey Bart the job. See if he can do it. See if he can just take on the job. Colin Croft, man, I know. I wanted to go live this morning. I really did. I thought that would have been a nice change of pace, but in the end, we Streamlabs was giving me issues. So, John Sullivan, best trade package for Hader. Yeah, God, is Hader ever going to get traded? Are they ever going to trade him? Are they ever going to do it? Let me pull. What is his value right now? He's got a $27 million value. I feel like they end up hanging on to him. I feel like, it's been all these years now, for Hader, and they just won't trade him. So I don't think they're going to do it. Christian Morales, man, no problem at all, my friend. Aaron, Padres emptied the farm enough. It's going to be tough to give up more. To get rid of a bad contract. I know they're very top heavy right now. Really, the guys that are at the top, you have. Oh my God, I'm going blank on the name. C.J. Abrams. You got C.J. Abrams. You have Luis Campusano. You have Robert Hassel. And you have Mackenzie Gore. Mackenzie Gore is a bit of a question mark, but I still think there's value there. So, Brady Johnson, what am I doing for Christmas? Oh, yeah. Wow. I'm still thinking in my head, I gotta finish my Christmas shopping. Just going to my best friends. I always go to my best friends every single year. So that'll be, I'm always excited for Christmas. My favorite holiday. But alrighty. So let's move on here. We got a couple more stories to talk about. Just two more stories. Not going to hold up any more of your time too much longer. The Cardinals, I did mention this on, I did a Q&A on Friday night. I think, hey, I might do that Q&A again this week. I'm feeling the Q&A. I think that might be a weekly thing that I end up doing, at least for the off season. Maybe I'll even do it during the regular season as well. Do a Q&A. Honestly, let me know what you all think. Would you like to see a weekly Q&A where I just kind of come on here, hour, maybe 2 hours, just kind of answer questions? Let me know if you'd like to, keep seeing that. I enjoyed the Q&A on Friday night. I thought that was pretty good. I digress. But during that stream, I talked about the St. Louis Cardinals, and they're trying to improve the bullpen. I touched on it for just a second, but I want to go a little more in depth here. But the Cardinals are looking to improve the bullpen. So the bullpen last year significantly improved when they put Giovanni Gallegos in the closer role. So, and it's no surprise to me that they want to keep looking to add, to this bullpen, because in the end, the bullpen came up short for them in the playoffs. So no surprise here. And I think they definitely could use another arm. Going to the Cardinals roster here, if we take a look at their bullpen, is the arm barn thing still a thing? That's not a thing anymore, right? That died, right? I hope that died. The arm barn. Oh my God! I swear, if they change the name of it to the arm barn, I will run into oncoming traffic. Giovanni Gallegos, the closer. Alex Reyes tabbed as one of the setup guys, along with Genesis Cabrera. So they did bring back McFarland. I believe they signed him to an extension, I believe. So you got Helsley out there in middle relief. Jordan Hicks is an interesting one. So let me actually go here to the injury report. I believe. Okay, so Hicks is going to be fine. Okay, so that's always the one thing with Hicks. I wonder what's going on with him. But Alex Reyes really struggled and ended up giving up the walk-off home run to Chris Taylor. So, but yeah, Hicks reinstated from the 60-day IL. So it looks like he's going to be okay for opening day. But 10 games last year, not really much going on. So that'd be great if he was healthy. But I think if you could bring in like a sure thing, for the bullpen, I think that's going to be a good thing here. So let me actually go to the Fangraphs, the free agent tracker. They have this wonderful tracker here where let's pull up here unsigned and let's go to relief pitchers. So, I mean, you still got some really good arms here. You got Colin McHugh. You got Kenley Jansen. Let me actually hear. So, actually, funny enough, Colin McHugh is projected to get a better WAR than Kenley Jansen. That is pretty funny if you ask me. So, but if we're going off of last year, right now, Colin McHugh, Kenley Jansen, these are the top 2 relief pitchers on the market. I think Ryan Tepera is interesting because he was with the Cubs, so he was in that division. I think Ryan Tepera could be interesting. I think Andrew Chafin would be really fun. Who are the lefties in the Cardinals rotation, in the bullpen? Who are their lefties? You got Cabrera and you got McFarland. I think Chafin could be pretty fun. But you got Cabrera there as the lefty. He had a pretty good season last year. So I don't think you need a lefty setup guy. I think they'll be fine. To me, Andrew Chafin just fits anywhere because his mustache is just fantastic. So I'll take Andrew Chafin out of it. Now, could you, Alex Reyes, if you want to keep him as your setup guy, he did pretty well overall last year. He had a 3.24 ERA. What was his FIP? His FIP was a 4.40. So that's, I don't know. So could you maybe go after someone like Tepera, who's been a dependable arm, in the last couple of years? He ended up being the better reliever for the White Sox last year. They got Craig Kimbrell. That was the talk of the town. And then Tepera ended up being the better guy. Or could you go with someone more in like middle relief? Someone like Jimmy Nelson. You got Jesse Chavez there. You got Steve Cishek. Could you go with one of these guys? Maybe like a Richard Rodriguez. Or Joe Kelly. Could you go with Joe Kelly for middle relief? I think that could be pretty fun. Go back home to St. Louis. That's where you were early on in your career. I think that could be pretty fun. Joe Kelly, in the couple of years that he was with the Cardinals, he did pretty good overall. He had about a 4 FIP over the 2 seasons, and then he went to the Red Sox. I would love for my Red Sox to bring him back. I don't know if they'll bring him back, though. But could he go back to St. Louis? That could be pretty fun. So, in the end, I'm not surprised that they're looking for a guy, just because, they have some potential guys in that bullpen who could be dominant guys. But, they've had their hiccups. So, maybe it's not a bad thing to go after someone that's a pretty dependable guy. Maybe Joe Kelly's not really that guy because he can have his issues with walks. So I think Tepera overall could be a really good guy for middle relief, like a middle relief setup guy for you. So I like that. How did Jimmy Nelson do last year? I don't remember what his stat line was. He had 28 games. Jimmy Nelson was really good last year. 1.86 ERA, 1.89 FIP. Jimmy Nelson was great last year. Could you go take a chance on Jimmy Nelson? That could be really good. So the Cardinals, I definitely think they could use another arm for that bullpen. I think the Cardinals, they're really good. I think they're going to be a really good team next year. So be on the lookout for the Cardinals. But tell me, if you were the Cardinals, what reliever would you want to add to that bullpen? Which one do you think is the most realistic? Which one do you think makes the most sense? Let me know. Lionheart 70, do I think Richard Rodriguez is washed up? Well, the thing with Rodriguez is he's not really like a strikeout kind of a guy. So I think he's a guy that you can put in middle relief. It's just the only thing with him is the FIP overall last year was not good. It was worse with the Braves. He had a FIP of 2.60 with the Pirates, and with the Braves, it was 6.17. And the strikeouts went down. His walks went up. He was worse with the Braves. So I'm not sure what ended up happening there. I still think Rodriguez could be a dependable arm. So he's not really going to get you a lot of strikeouts. That's the thing. So I think Rodriguez has a role. So let's see. What else could the Cardinals get besides pitching? I don't know. There's not. I mean, could you maybe use another starting pitcher? Because you don't know what are you going to get health-wise out of Flaherty, Dakota Hudson, Michaelis. I think you could maybe add a starting pitcher, just for depth. I like the lineup. I think they could use think a left-handed bat somewhere would be pretty nice. I mean, you do got switch hitters in Dylan Carlson, Tommy Edman. Could you maybe get someone for second base? You know, maybe Tommy Edman could be more of like your super utility guy. I think you could make an upgrade with Tommy Edman. Only had a 308 on base. So that's something for the Cardinals. So, oh, no, I like the way you think. Maybe a Drew Pomeranz trade. Grin aside, what should the Mets prioritize? I think they need to beef up their starting pitching depth. That's what they should be spending money on. Guys that can give them innings. That's what they need to do. Yeah, Kenneth, me too, man. Drew Pomeranz, when he's healthy, he's good. I forgot he existed too. So, Dulcie Maris. Oh, Wambanaya, yeah. Under the radar kind of a guy. I always like those under the radar guys. So, oh, Emmanuel, it's not clickbait, my friend. It's not clickbait. It's an actual report, my friend. It was Buster Olney talking about it. Like, if there's anyone, out of all these guys out here, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say, on the baseball YouTubes, I'm probably the least clickbaity guy out there. So, I don't know. I don't do the clickbait stuff. That's not my thing. Hey, it's a possibility. Carlos Correa could go, and Buster Olney was talking about it. All right, maybe it was a little clickbaity. I'll give you that. Maybe just a little bit. But overall, I am not that clickbaity. I don't think I am. Am I? Am I clickbaity? I don't think I am. But anyway, I digress. The Cardinals. Maybe a bullpen arm would be nice. We got one more story before I get out of here. Let's talk about the Oakland A's, huh? The Oakland A's. Well, it's been looking like maybe the Oakland A's are going to be going to Las Vegas. I mean, it's looking like it's more of a possibility each and every day. But there was something out there. Maybe there's some hope for the Oakland A's to stay in Oakland. Could they end up staying here? Look at this nice little picture of maybe what a new stadium in Oakland could look like. A waterfront ballpark. And you got some apartment buildings around there, some shopping centers around there. Oakland, man, they want to keep the A's. But they came out with a report. It was an environmental report. So it's kind of a big deal. So let me actually go to the article here. Here we go. So Oakland releases their final environmental impact report for the new A's waterfront ballpark. So 3,500 pages. 3,500 pages. That's a lot of pages. So I don't think we're going to read through those tonight. But to give you a basic breakdown here, it basically what this report is saying is basically saying like why the stadium would be okay for the environment. So 3,500 pages, like I said. So it details how the development will need to manage issues like rail safety, parking, pollution, waste removal, increased traffic. Those are things that many people don't really think of. We all say like, oh, just build a stadium. Well, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. A lot of logistics that goes into a stadium. So it's kind of a big deal that, you're coming out with this report. It's kind of one of those things where it's one of those last little things that you got to do to, make a new stadium happen because, hey, you're looking at the impact on what's going on in the city. So with this ballpark, they're trying to really push for it to be a waterfront thing. They want there to be, places to live right around the stadium, which I think is pretty cool. That you got these big apartment buildings that are going to be around it. Shopping centers nearby. They want to make this a thing. They want to keep the A's in Oakland. So there were, I guess, there could be some possible problems in this plan. So, but real quick, it's a huge milestone to get the final environmental report, said Oakland Athletics president Dave Cavall. It's been 3 years in the making, tens of millions of dollars, thousands of hours of work. So it's interesting that he's commenting on this. So I think that's a good thing. I think that's a positive thing for maybe the A's to stay there, because I guess supposedly they already put down an offer for some land in Las Vegas. So the fact that this report is coming out, I think that's a positive sign. So maybe they could end up staying. So we'll have to wait and see. But I guess there were some things here. Also, here's another comment. So there is going to be a final vote. A final vote could be held in the Oakland City Council in 2022, Mayor Libby Schaaf said in a statement. The completion of the EIR brings us one step closer to keeping our beloved A's rooted in Oakland, Schaaf said. So it says also here, however, the release of the final EIR is just one step in a long and complicated process. It does not guarantee the A's are going to stay in Oakland or that a final agreement on the ballpark will be reached. So this is an important milestone step. It allows us to get that final approval, but we're still a little ways out on that. So it says here they're having weekly, daily conversations. So I guess there were some things where maybe they got to kind of iron it out. I'm guessing probably stuff to do more with, like just traffic and stuff like that. Rail safety. That's a big thing over there in Oakland. They got the trains and stuff over there. Do they have subways over there in Oakland? I can't remember. So it says here, some of the shipping cranes at Howard Terminal will transition to public art and will remain unused as part of the 18 acres of public parks at the ballpark development. That's interesting. So it says here, the EIR explains that the pedestrian bridges will need to be built across the railroad tracks at Jack London Square. So I could see where some of this stuff maybe logistically can be a bit of an issue, but I think it's a pretty good, it's a step in the right direction to keeping the A's in Oakland. So, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm looking at this. If this is what this stadium is going to look like, that's pretty nice, man. That's pretty nice. And that's probably the best looking thing in that city. Are you kidding me? Look how nice that looks. I like how they make it look brighter here. Everything else in the background, it's not as bright. Look at that. Look how nice that looks. So that'd be fantastic, right on the water. But I don't know. Are they going to move to Las Vegas? If you're getting this out here, Cubs rule, just subscribe. What's going on, my friend? But we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening. Could they end up making that move to Las Vegas? Could maybe go somewhere else possibly. Or are they going to stay right at home in Oakland? And at the end of the day, if you can keep a team, in your city, that's the best option, in my opinion. I think at the end of the day, it has to work out for both sides. And, if both sides can't come to terms on, everything here, then it's just going to be best to go. We just had the Raiders go to Las Vegas. So, but with Oakland, I don't think they would have any sports teams anymore. I think they would be gone. The Warriors, they left. You had, like I said, the Raiders left. So I think that would be it. You wouldn't have anything. So they're very determined to keep the A's in Oakland. So, but we'll have to wait and see. But everyone, that is all I have for tonight. I'm going to get out of here. It is 10 o'clock here on the East Coast. I'm going to get out of here. I actually was just doing a little Uber earlier. I'm actually pretty tired. I'm going to be waking up early in the morning, go banging and clanging at the gym, and then I'm going to do some more Uber, try and make some money, and work on some more content. I'll be live again tomorrow night. Don't forget as well, really quick, let me actually pull up here. Let me pull up the channel just so I can show you a couple of things. Here we go. Alrighty, so taking a look here. I did post a video earlier this morning. Actually posted this at 9 a.m. When the heck do I ever post a video at 9 a.m.? But had a video here, 5 questions for Buck Showalter and the Mets. So if you haven't seen that, go ahead, go take a watch. Tomorrow, I will be premiering the 10 best Major League Baseball free agent signings of all time. I put together a list, the 10 best free agent signings ever. Also, I did a Detroit Tigers rebuild. I posted that last night. We're talking about the Oakland A's here a second ago. Talked about, hey, the Oakland A's. This was also something that happened over the weekend. Hey, the Mets got their manager, but it looks like the Oakland A's have their manager as well. So if you haven't caught any of these videos, go check them out. And tomorrow, again, the best free agent signings of all time. That'll be premiering tomorrow at 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. So, everyone, I am getting out of here. Go get yourselves some rest. I'm going to go to sleep here rather soon. But thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate you all. Have yourself a good rest of your night. Have a good day tomorrow, and I'll talk to you next time.